Hi, welcome to my podcast, Help Me Rhonda. I'm your host, Dr. Rhonda.Karg. I'm a clinical psychologist, and each episode of this podcast, I share mental health related information with you in hopes that you'll learn about your own behavior and also learn some new skills that will help improve your mental health. So this is the second part of a video series on limerence. And as I said in the first video, limerence is a state of infatuation or obsession about another person and longing for that person to return your feelings for them, that they have as much affection for you that they have than you have for them. And it's that longing for a connection, so much so that it leads to problems in your life, including the following. If you're in a state of limerence when you go into a relationship, you can have unrealistic expectations about that other person, that limerent object. You can believe that they are actually perfect and there's nothing about them that will disappoint you. So you have very, very unrealistic expectations for them. Then you're going to be in conflict and you're going to come up feeling unsatisfied more times than not if that limerent idea that you had of them isn't let go. Okay? Limerence can also happen if you are married and you develop an obsession with someone you work with. That's another example of limerence that oftentimes happens. And reading into what that other person is doing and believing that there's some underlying or hidden significance behind what that person is doing, and really thinking that there's much more of a relationship and a connection than there actually is. You're not grounded in reality. You are making stuff up in your head based on what you want, essentially. That's what's happening. Limerence can be developing an obsession with someone you met sitting next to you on a plane and feeling this very strong connection with them and knowing that they live in Chicago, and the next thing you know, you're ready to leave your job in Atlanta so that you can move to Chicago to be closer to your limerent object, even though they don't even necessarily remember meeting you. Okay, it is this obsession where it's difficult for you to enjoy other things. This limerent object becomes the primary focus in your life. You start neglecting yourself. You start neglecting work, schoolwork, friendships, relationships with other people. And you just spend a lot of time in your head fantasizing about this person that doesn't actually exist. It's like the limerent object isn't the person. In reality, the limerent object is the fantasy of who that person is, okay? That's the limerent object. It's not based on reality, and it's based on having an unmet need to have a connection and to feel loved. And that is such a strong biological need that we have to make that connection with other people. We need it to survive. And so it's in our DNA to have that desire for a connection, and it can feel like that. It can feel so much bigger than you. And to be honest with you, I've said this before, I think 90% of it is probably hormones and an evolutionary desire to procreate. I think that that's a lot of times what's underlying a lot of it. Again, though, I think on an emotional level, it is a desire for a connection, a desire to be loved. And that's natural and that's normal. And so when we talk about what to do about limerent states, right? A limerent state is when you're obsessively thinking about this other person that doesn't exist, or a relationship with them that doesn't exist. What we're doing is escaping from some other state that is very uncomfortable for us. So looking at what's going on inside of me that I want to escape. Is it fear? Is it that I'm having problems in my marriage and I just don't know how to fix it, so I'm overwhelmed and I want this limerent object instead? Is it that you're bored in your life? You don't really have a lot of connections with other people, and so you're kind of generating one with someone that doesn't exist. There are important reasons underneath the limerent state that is important for you to be able to identify. Ways that you can identify this, I really recommend looking into limerence more. There's lots of creators out here on YouTube that talk about limerence, so you can learn more about it. Knowledge is power. And look at what the underlying causes are so that you can work on healing those wounds. So you could do that also by seeking out professional help, seeking out a psychotherapist who specializes in treating limerence like I do, or you can read books about limerence that are out there. You can go to online stores and find books on limerence. But I think that the most important thing is to identify what the underlying cause is, what's happening in your life, what's missing in your life that's making you have these fantasies about this other person. What needs of yours are unmet? And then we can work on meeting those needs yourself. And through your connections with other people, real connections with other people, not fantasies, but real connections with other people. And being very compassionate with yourself about the fact that you do want love and connection with other people, and that's a normal human desire, is to have that need. It's also not unusual for people to want to just escape, and there are a million ways that people can numb out, and obsessing about someone else and obsessing about a relationship that doesn't exist is one way that people numb out. Why do people numb out? Because it's hard for them to hold space for their feelings. Why is it hard for them to hold space for their feelings? Maybe it's because they don't know what their feelings are. Maybe no one taught them as a kid what they were feeling. So they're not able to identify what their feelings are, so they just use escapism as a way to cope with it because they're so overwhelmed by them. So identifying what feelings are there, holding space for those feelings, and when we look at our feelings, we can recognize what our unmet needs are. And so if your unmet need is connection, then maybe there are other ways to develop connection in a way that's based in reality so that you can develop meaningful relationships with people, not fake ones. You can work on your feelings of self-worth. If you feel like you're a failure, if you feel like you don't have much value as a person, you feel worthless. That could be related to depression, but there are things that you can do to recognize that you are actually an amazing person and you're whole and complete just as you are. And if that's an idea that's kind of difficult for you to even comprehend, then I really encourage you to seek out some professional help from someone that can help you work on your feelings of self-worth, because that's really important. You don't need someone else to be in love with you in order for you to have worth. You don't need to be in a relationship, a romantic relationship with someone, or even a friendship. You can have limerence with platonically too. But the idea is that it's not based on in reality. And so looking for more meaningful relationships with people. And again, if you need help with that, there are resources, there's books out there on how to connect with people. I have other podcast episodes on ways to connect with people and be vulnerable with them. So developing more meaningful relationships in your life, working on your self-worth, working on healing those parts of you that feel unloved and unappreciated, because you can give yourself everything that you might need in terms of love and in terms of being your own biggest fan, in terms of helping you to recognize all the things that make you an amazing person. Doing the exercise of I am amazing 2 to 3 minutes a day. I am amazing because, and you just keep talking about all the reasons that you're amazing. You do that 2 to 3 minutes a day. Over time, you're strengthening that neural pathway. And remember, it's like doing reps with weights, right? The more often that you do these things, the more quickly it will become an automatic response, and pretty soon you'll start looking for things that you do that is amazing. You'll start doing that automatically after a while. So you can do the I am amazing exercise for 2 to 3 minutes a day. You know, journaling about your feelings, journaling about that longing that you have for a connection with someone. Not the longing necessarily for that person, because that could keep you in a limerent state, but just your longing for love, your longing for a meaningful romantic relationship, and getting the help that you need to make that happen for you. You know, getting on dating apps might be very seductive for you as you're trying to work through this. You may want to develop a limerent relationship with someone else to the extent that you start looking in places where maybe people that are available don't frequent very much. You know, so be careful about where you go, what you do, and ways that limerence can pop up, especially during times of distress. Being compassionate with yourself about the fact that you want a connection with someone, and just giving yourself a break, because it happens to a lot of people. And when you realize that you've been having a fantasy about who this person is, it can be really disappointing. So the other tool that I would say is that it's important for you to get social support from people who have earned your trust, whether that's a friend or a therapist or someone else who's earned your trust in your life, to just talk about your feelings of disappointment or your feelings of hopelessness about ever having a meaningful relationship with someone else. Anything that's on your mind, it's good to talk about, because that other person can maybe help give you some ideas and help keep you grounded if they see that you're in a limerent state again in the future. It's good to let other people know that this is a habit of yours if they don't already know. You can educate them about limerence. So I hope that you heard something helpful today in terms of your healing from a limerent state. I would love to hear from you if you'd like to leave a comment about what has helped you in today's video or other videos that I've done about limerence, and maybe things that you've done to help you to break out of a limerent state. So thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate your support. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.